While humanity has always looked up to the stars to find our place in the universe, the greatest mystery lies not above us, but beneath us. Imagine a world where the sun never shines, where mountains grow in total darkness, and where time seems to stand still. Tonight, we leave the noise of the surface behind. Tonight, we dive into the deep.
Close your eyes now and let your body sink deeper into the comfort of your bed, allowing the heaviness of the day to simply evaporate like mist rising off the water in the morning sun. We begin our journey not in the depths, but at the very edge of the world, where the solid earth meets the liquid expanse of the unknown. Imagine yourself standing on a quiet, pristine beach, where the white sand is cool beneath your feet and the rhythmic sound of the waves rolling in creates a hypnotic melody that slows down your breathing, breathing in the salty air and breathing out all tension. Look out toward the horizon, where the blue of the ocean kisses the blue of the sky, a line that stretches infinitely to the left and to the right, reminding us that we live on a blue planet dominated by water. It is a vast, breathing entity that has held the secrets of our world for billions of years. But to understand the deep, we must first travel back in time to an era when the ocean was a mystery, a blank space on the map labeled only with drawings of monsters and myths. Let your mind drift back through the corridors of history to the year 1872, a time of steam and sail, of brass and polished wood, and of an insatiable curiosity that drove humanity to explore the boundaries of the possible. We find ourselves in the harbor of Portsmouth, England, on a cold, gray December morning where the mist clings to the water and the cries of seagulls echo against the wooden hulls of great ships. Resting in the water is the HMS Challenger, a vessel that looks like a warship but feels different, for she has been stripped of her guns and her cannons to make room for something far more powerful, which is knowledge. Visualize the ship, a Pearl-class corvette, bobbing gently on the swell, her timber creaking softly as she waits to depart on a voyage that would last nearly 4 years and change the course of science forever. Instead of ammunition, her hold is filled with thousands of glass jars, microscopes, thermometers, and miles upon miles of hemp rope, all designed to probe the dark unknown that lies beneath the keel. The men on board, led by Captain George Nares and the brilliant scientist Charles Wyville Thompson, are not looking for new lands or gold, but are seeking to answer the simple question of what lies at the bottom of the sea. As the ship weighs anchor and moves slowly out into the vast Atlantic, you can feel the gentle motion of the deck beneath your feet, a rocking sensation that is comforting and rhythmic, like a cradle swaying back and forth. The coast of England fades into the distance until there is nothing but the 360-degree view of the open ocean, a circle of water that travels with the ship day after day. The science of this journey is slow and methodical, a patient conversation with the deep that requires hours of silence and waiting. Picture the crew gathered on the deck under the midday sun, the wind filling the sails above them as they prepare to take a sounding to measure the depth of the world. They lower a heavy lead weight attached to a rope, watching it disappear into the blue water, going down, 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 pulling the rope with it fathom after fathom. It is a hypnotic process to watch the rope uncoil, sliding over the edge of the ship and vanishing into the abyss, connecting the sunlight world of the surface with the eternal night of the seafloor. They count the knots on the rope, 100 fathoms, 200 fathoms, 1,000 fathoms, waiting for the line to go slack, signaling that the bottom has finally been reached. This was the birth of modern oceanography,
a science born not in a flash of lightning, but in the slow, steady rhythm of lowering a line and pulling it back up, bringing with it mud and clay that had not seen the light of day for millions of years. Imagine the patience required, the stillness of the ship as it drifted in the middle of the Pacific or the Atlantic, a tiny speck of wood and canvas floating over mountains and valleys hidden beneath the waves. As the sun begins to set on this vast ocean,
painting the sky in shades of violet and gold, the water turns a deep, rich indigo, and the first stars begin to appear, reflecting on the surface like diamonds scattered on dark velvet. The HMS Challenger sailed for over 68,000 nautical miles, a journey so long that the ocean became their entire universe, a place where time seemed to stretch and bend with the rolling waves. The scientists would sit in their cabins, the lantern light swaying with the ship, carefully cataloging strange and wonderful creatures brought up from the depths, realizing for the first time that the deep ocean was not a barren wasteland, but a place teeming with life. They found life where they thought none could exist, proving that the ocean was a living, breathing skin around our planet. Feel the sense of wonder they must have felt, the realization that the world was far deeper and more complex than anyone had ever imagined. As the ship cuts through the water, the sound of the bow breaking the waves is a constant white noise, a shh sound that lulls the crew to sleep each night. You are there with them, safe inside the wooden walls of the ship, protected from the elements, feeling the gentle rise and fall of the vessel as it rides the breathing of the ocean. The vastness of the horizon is no longer scary, but comforting, a reminder that there is endless space to drift and dream. The history of the Challenger is a story of patience, of men who were willing to listen to the silence of the sea and wait for it to reveal its secrets. As night falls completely over the ocean, the water becomes black and merges with the night sky, so that the ship seems to be sailing through the stars themselves. The air is cool and smells of salt and distant rain, filling your lungs with a cleansing breath that relaxes your shoulders and softens your neck. The miles of rope they used are like the threads of a story that connects us to the bottom of the world, a connection that remains unbroken to this day. We honor their journey by closing our eyes and imagining that endless horizon, the peaceful solitude of being surrounded by water, the feeling of being held by the sea. The HMS Challenger showed us that the ocean is not just a barrier between continents, but a bridge that connects all life, a deep reservoir of history and mystery. As the ship sails on in your imagination, moving slowly across the face of the deep, you can let go of the need to know where you are going and simply enjoy the motion of the journey. The ocean is vast, and you are small, but you are safe, floating on the surface of a mystery that is deep and calm and quiet. Let the image of the ship fade slowly into the night, leaving only the sound of the water lapping against the hull, a rhythmic lullaby that has been singing the world to sleep for eons. The surface is just the beginning, the skin of the apple, the cover of the book, and as we drift along this endless horizon, we prepare ourselves to slip beneath the waves, to leave the sun behind, and journey into the beautiful darkness that awaits below. But for now, just breathe with the ocean, inhale the vastness, exhale the worry, and feel the gentle rocking motion of the history that carries you toward a deep and restful sleep.
The wooden hull of the Challenger and the bright, rhythmic world of the surface now drift away from us as we begin the slow and deliberate descent into the liquid heart of the planet, leaving behind the realm of wind and weather to enter a space of eternal stillness. We are not diving with speed or urgency, but sinking gently like a stone tossed into a deep well, drifting downward through the layers of the ocean, where the rules of physics begin to change the very nature of reality. As we slip beneath the waves, the water embraces us, cool and heavy, silencing the noise of the world above and replacing it with a profound quiet that presses softly against the ears. We are passing through the first layer, the epipelagic zone, where the sunlight still dances in shafts of gold and turquoise, illuminating the dust motes and plankton that float like microscopic stars in a liquid sky. But as we descend past 50 meters, we begin to witness the fascinating science of light absorption, a physical phenomenon that turns the ocean into a prism of disappearing colors. The water molecules act as a filter, greedy for energy, and they begin to steal the colors of the spectrum one by one in a specific order that never changes. The first to leave us is the color red, the longest wavelength with the lowest energy, absorbed quickly by the density of the sea, so that if you were to look at a red flower here, it would appear black as coal. Orange follows soon after, fading into a dull shadow, and then the cheerful yellow of the sun is stripped away, leaving us in a world dominated entirely by blue. This is not the blue of the sky, but a deep, resonant sapphire that seems to glow from within, a light that feels ancient and serene. We reach 200 meters, the gateway to the mesopelagic zone, historically and poetically known as the Twilight Zone, a borderland between the day and the eternal night. Here, the temperature drops rapidly as we cross the thermocline, a distinct invisible barrier where the warm surface waters meet the icy deep. And you can feel this change as a crisp, refreshing coolness that calms the nerves and slows the heart. The light here is faint, a ghostly twilight that reminds one of a winter evening just moments before total darkness falls, where the sun is a memory rather than a presence. In this blue gloom, the eyes strain to see, adapting to a world where shadows rule and silhouettes drift by like phantoms in a dream. We are now deeper than most light can travel, and the sun above, which was once a blinding sphere of fire, has shrunk to a distant pale coin, shimmering on the ceiling of the world far above our heads. The science of this place is a science of scarcity, where life has adapted to the fading energy of the sun, evolving large, sensitive eyes to catch the few stray photons that manage to penetrate this deep. You might see the faint ghostly outline of a hatchetfish or the silver flash of a lanternfish, creatures that live their entire lives in this perpetual dusk, never knowing the brightness of noon or the darkness of midnight, suspended forever in the gray hours. As we sink to 500 meters, the pressure of the water increases, not as a crushing force, but as a firm, comforting hug, a weighted blanket that surrounds the body on all sides, holding you together and grounding you in the present moment.
The density of the water here carries sound differently, making the ocean a vast, echoing chamber where the click of a whale or the snap of a shrimp can travel for miles, yet all you hear is the sound of your own steady breathing. The blue light continues to deepen, shifting from sapphire to a rich, dark indigo, the color of the sky just before the stars come out, a color that signals the brain to rest and release. We are witnessing the final struggle of sunlight against the power of the deep, a silent battle where the ocean is the inevitable victor. At 800 meters, the water is an inky purple, a darkness so thick it feels like velvet against the skin, soft and all-encompassing. If you look up now, the surface is no longer a textured roof of waves, but a faint, dying glow, a last reminder that there is a world of air and light somewhere far away. This fading light triggers a primal sense of hibernation, a biological signal that tells the body it is time to shut down, to conserve energy, to drift without purpose or destination. The Twilight Zone is a place of transition, a bridge between the known and the unknown, where the science of optics tells us that blue light, with its short energetic wavelength, fights the hardest to stay, scattering through the water molecules until it too is exhausted and absorbed. We are approaching 1,000 meters, the lower boundary of this zone, and the transition to the bathypelagic,
the midnight zone. Here, the last photon of sunlight is finally captured by the ocean, extinguishing the sun completely. It is a profound moment, a historical boundary where humanity leaves the solar system behind. For down here, the sun has no power, no influence, and no name. The darkness is now absolute, a perfect, unblemished black that is not empty, but full of potential, a canvas waiting for the bioluminescent art of the deep to paint upon it. The feeling of floating here is one of total isolation, but not loneliness, for you are swaddled in the most stable environment on Earth, a place that has not changed for millions of years. The chaos of history, the wars, the noise, and the hurry of the surface world are miles away, filtered out by the crushing depth, leaving only peace. As we leave the twilight zone, we bid farewell to the sun, thanking it for its warmth, but accepting the invitation of the deep, ready to explore the mysteries that thrive in the dark. The water is cold, the pressure is steady, and the silence is complete. You are weightless, drifting in a void that feels safe and eternal, suspended in the belly of the ocean where time slows down to a halt. The fading blue has washed away your thoughts, the disappearing light has taken your worries with it, and you are left with nothing but the gentle, rhythmic sensation of sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into the comforting arms of the abyss.
Let your mind drift away from the present moment and float back on the gentle currents of history to the 1930s, a time when the world was vast and the map was still being drawn, specifically to the warm, sun-drenched waters off the coast of Bermuda, where a peculiar and marvelous invention sits on the deck of a barge called the Ready. We are here to witness a moment of bravery and science, the story of the bathysphere, a vessel that looks less like a ship and more like a single giant bead of steel destined to thread the needle of the abyss. Visualize this object clearly, a hollow steel ball only 4.5 feet in diameter, with walls 1.5 inches thick, painted a bright white that would soon fade into the deep blues of the sea. It was the brainchild of the engineer Otis Barton and the naturalist William Beebe, two men who decided that the only way to truly know the ocean was to seal themselves inside a metal bubble and surrender to gravity. Imagine the sensation of preparing for this journey. The air on the deck is thick and humid with the tropical heat, the smell of engine grease and salt water mixing in the breeze as Beebe and Barton prepare to climb inside. It is a tight squeeze, a space so small that once inside they must sit curled up, knees to chest, in a position of enforced intimacy and stillness. There is a primal feeling here, a sense of returning to a womb-like state where the outside world is completely shut away. As the heavy steel door, weighing 400 pounds, is hoisted into place, the circle of sunlight shrinks until it vanishes, replaced by the clang of sledgehammers driving the brass bolts home, sealing the men inside. One by one, the bolts are tightened, the sound ringing through the metal sphere like a temple bell, signifying the end of the surface world and the beginning of their isolation. Now there is only the interior, a cozy, dimly lit space smelling of rubber and the palm leaf fans they use to circulate the air. It might seem frightening to be locked in a steel ball, but let yourself feel the opposite. Feel the profound safety of it, for this curved wall of steel is the strongest shield ever made, a fortress that will hold back the crushing weight of the ocean. The winch on the deck begins to turn, and the bathysphere is lifted gently, swinging for a moment in the air before splashing down into the Atlantic, the water rising up to cover the quartz windows, turning the view from bright air to bubbling foam. As they descend, the sphere becomes a pendulum of peace,
dangling from a single 7/8-inch steel cable that connects them to the world of men. Inside, the air is kept fresh by trays of soda lard and calcium chloride, simple chemistry working silently to scrub the carbon dioxide and keep the atmosphere breathable, a soft hissing sound that becomes the rhythm of their survival. They drift down past the reach of the sun, past the coral reefs, deeper into the liquid embrace of the sea. The temperature inside the sphere begins to drop, the tropical heat replaced by the chill of the deep, condensation forming in small cold droplets on the steel walls like morning dew. Beebe presses his face against the fused quartz window, a pane of glass 3 inches thick, watching the world transition from turquoise to the deepest lapis lazuli. There is a telephone line running up the cable, their only link to the surface, where the voice of Gloria Hollister, their colleague on the deck, comes down to them tinny and distant, recording their observations, her voice a lifeline in the dark. Down here, at depths of half a mile, the pressure is immense, thousands of pounds per square inch pressing against the sphere. But the sphere does not yield, it stands firm, a tiny bubble of air and life, defying the weight of the world. This creates a feeling of intense coziness, a feeling of being tucked in tight while a storm rages outside. But here there is no storm, only the silent, heavy pressure of the water. The steel ball is a cocoon, protected and secure, allowing the men to relax into the darkness. They are the first humans to see the deep ocean with their own eyes, describing the sparks of bioluminescence that flash like fireworks in the night. The motion of the sphere is almost imperceptible, a slow, gentle rotation that lulls the senses, rocking them in the cradle of the deep. You can imagine sitting there with them, huddled on the cold floor, wrapped in warm clothes, watching the beam of the searchlight cut through the eternal night outside. The fear of the unknown melts away, replaced by the awe of the privilege of being there, suspended in the void, held by a thread of steel. The walls of the bathysphere are not a prison, but a sanctuary, a place where the noise of modern life cannot reach, where the only reality is the beating of your own heart and the slow drift of the currents. Beebe described the color of the deep as a blackness so thick it seemed solid, yet inside their sphere, the small electric light offered a warm amber glow, a campfire in the wilderness of the ocean. The descent continues, down to 3,028 feet, a record that stood for years, a depth where the silence is absolute. There is no wind, no waves, no day, no night, only the eternal now. The steel ball holds you, hugs you, keeps the water at bay, creating a pocket of dryness and warmth in a universe of cold liquid. It is a hypnotic experience, the knowledge that you are a tiny speck in a vast ocean, yet you are perfectly safe, encased in human ingenuity and strength. The cable hums slightly, a vibration that travels down from the ship above, a reminder that you are not forgotten, that you are being watched over. As they hang there in the abyss, the feeling is one of profound rest, the body realizing it has nowhere to go, nothing to do but watch and breathe. The heavy bolts that sealed the door now feel like the locks on a treasure chest, keeping the precious cargo of life safe within. The history of the bathysphere is not just about depth records. It is about the human need to find peace in the most unlikely places, to build a shell and dive into the silence. As you listen to this, imagine yourself curled up in that sphere, feeling the cool steel against your back, watching the dark water press against the window, knowing that it cannot touch you. You are deep, you are safe, you are hidden from the world. The gentle sway of the cable is like a mother rocking a child, a slow, rhythmic movement that signals it is time to rest. The experiments are done, the observations are written, and now there is only the drift, the slow ascent or descent, the suspension in the heavy, comforting water. Let the image of the white sphere fading into the blue darkness soothe your mind, a perfect circle of safety in an infinite sea. The bathysphere is a tiny planet of its own, and you are its sole inhabitant, drifting through the cosmos of the deep, protected, warm, and ready to sleep in the quietest place on Earth. We continue our slow and deliberate journey downward, leaving behind the last faint gray whispers of the Twilight Zone to cross an invisible threshold into a world of permanent night, known to science as the bathypelagic zone, or more poetically, the Midnight Zone. Here, at a depth of 1,000 meters and beyond, the water is pitch black, a velvet curtain that has been drawn tight against the sun, creating a space where no ray of daylight has penetrated for millions of years. It is a place of absolute stillness and profound silence, where the temperature hovers just above freezing, preserving this underwater universe in a state of eternal preservation. As we drift through this inky void, you might expect to see nothing but emptiness, but as your eyes adjust to the total absence of solar light, a miracle begins to unfold around you, a phenomenon that turns the darkness into a canvas for the most beautiful art in nature. This is the realm of bioluminescence, a biological magic where life creates its own light, transforming the deep ocean into a glittering galaxy of living stars. Imagine drifting in the center of this endless black space, weightless and relaxed, when suddenly a spark ignites in the distance, a soft blue-green glow that pulses gently like a slow heartbeat. This is not the heat of a fire or the harshness of a bulb, but a cold light, the result of a delicate chemical reaction happening inside the bodies of the creatures that call this darkness home. The science behind this is a soothing rhythm of molecules, where a substance called luciferin meets an enzyme called luciferase, and in the presence of oxygen, they dance together to release energy in the form of a photon. It is the most efficient light in the world, 98% energy and virtually no heat, a perfect adaptation for a world where energy is scarce and precious. As you float deeper, these lights begin to appear all around you, not as a chaotic flash, but as a slow, synchronized symphony of illumination. You see the ghostly silhouette of a comb jelly, drifting like a delicate glass sculpture, its body lined with rows of tiny cilia that beat in a rhythmic wave, refracting light into a rainbow of colors that shimmer and travel down its body like a neon sign in a rainy city. It is hypnotic to watch, the colors rippling in silence, a visual lullaby that calms the mind. Nearby, a lanternfish swims past, small and unassuming, but its belly is covered in photophores, tiny organs that emit a soft glow, matching the faint light from above, a camouflage strategy known as counter-illumination that allows it to vanish into the background. The deep ocean is not dark to those who live here. It is a language of flashes and fades, a secret code of signals used to find mates, lure prey, or confuse predators. Consider the famous anglerfish, a creature of patience and solitude, hanging motionless in the water column. From its forehead extends a long, slender filament, tipped with a glowing bulb, a lure filled with glowing bacteria that live in symbiosis with the fish. In the vast, empty darkness, this single point of light acts like a beacon, a lonely street lamp in a fog, drawing curious eyes toward it. There is no hurry in the anglerfish's movements, only a slow, deliberate drift, conserving every ounce of energy, waiting for the ocean to bring sustenance to it. The light is soft, mesmerizing, a pale blue dot in a sea of black. Further down, you might encounter the Atolla jellyfish, a creature that looks like a deep red UFO. When threatened, it does not fight, but instead erupts into a dazzling display of spinning blue lights, a biological burglar alarm designed to illuminate its attacker and call for help from larger predators. The lights spin and flash in a circular pattern, a carousel of bioluminescence that is both startling and beautiful to behold. As we descend through this zone, the lights become more varied, some steady and enduring like distant planets, others fleeting and spark-like, resembling fireflies on a warm summer night. There are siphonophores, massive colonies of individual creatures linked together in chains that can stretch for nearly 100 feet, glowing like a string of holiday lights drifting in the breeze. Each tiny individual in the colony has a job, some to eat, some to reproduce, and some to create light, working together in perfect harmony. The light they produce is mostly blue or green, because these are the wavelengths that travel furthest through seawater, while red light is absorbed almost instantly. This is why many deep-sea creatures are red in color, for in the blue-tinted light of the bioluminescent flash, their red bodies appear pitch black, rendering them invisible in the dark. It is a game of shadows and light, played out in slow motion in the deepest theater on Earth. The visual beauty of this zone is matched only by the feeling of peace it instills. Imagine yourself floating there, surrounded by these gentle pulses of light, feeling the heavy, comforting pressure of the water holding you safe. You are a part of this starry night, a silent observer in a universe that exists beneath the waves. The lights turn on and off with a rhythm that matches your breathing. Inhale and the light glows. Exhale and it fades. There's the vampire squid, a misleading name for a gentle scavenger, which can turn itself inside out to reveal a cloak of spines. But its true beauty lies in the glowing tips of its arms and the large light-producing organs on its body that can release a cloud of glowing mucus, a smokescreen of light that leaves predators dazzled and confused. Every creature here carries a torch, a lantern, or a flare, proving that even in the deepest darkness, life finds a way to shine. The Midnight Zone is not a place of fear, but a place of wonder, a quiet cathedral where the stained glass windows are made of living, breathing light. The science of bioluminescence is a reminder that nature is full of solutions, that there is always a way to illuminate the path forward. As you drift deeper into this zone, the lights seem to blur slightly, becoming softer and more dreamlike, the separation between the ocean and the starry sky above completely erased. You are floating in a cosmos of water, where the galaxies are made of plankton and the comets are swimming fish. The shh sound of the ocean is all you hear, a white noise that blankets your thoughts and allows you to drift. The lights are not demanding, they do not ask for your attention, they simply exist, glowing softly in the eternal night. This symphony of living light plays on, a silent concert that has been performing for millions of years, unseen by human eyes until now. It is a privilege to witness it, to let the cool blue glow wash over you, soothing your tired eyes and relaxing your mind. The darkness is thick and supportive, a mattress of water that cushions you, while the lights act as a nightlight, keeping watch as you descend further. We are passing through the heart of the ocean, a place where the sun is a myth and the only reality is the gentle, pulsating glow of life itself. The chemistry of the light is cold, peaceful, and efficient, just as your body is now becoming cold, peaceful, and efficient in its rest. Let the bioluminescence guide you. Let the flashes of blue and green lull you into a trance, watching them appear and disappear in the vast blackness. You are safe in the Midnight Zone, a guest in the gallery of the deep, surrounded by the gentle, silent fireworks of the abyss. As the lights slowly fade into the distance above and below, you are left with a profound sense of awe and a deep, heavy relaxation, ready to drift even deeper into the mysteries that await in the crushing, comforting depths below.
As the shimmering lights of the bioluminescent creatures fade into the abyss above us, we are left alone in the comforting darkness, descending further into a realm where the physical rules of the universe assert themselves in the most powerful way imaginable. We are now entering the domain of immense pressure, a concept that often frightens the uninitiated, but in truth is the source of the deep ocean's profound stability and peace. Let us pause here, suspended in the water column, and turn our minds to the science of hydrostatic pressure, which is simply the weight of the water resting above us. Imagine for a moment that every drop of water is a tiny, heavy bead of glass, and as we go deeper, we are stacking these beads one on top of the other, layer upon layer, mile upon mile. At sea level, the air around you pushes against your skin with a force of 14.7 pounds per square inch, a weight we carry every day without noticing. But down here, for every 10 meters we descend, another atmosphere of pressure is added to the stack. We are now thousands of meters deep, where the pressure is hundreds of times greater than on the surface. Yet do not think of this as a crushing force, but rather as the ultimate embrace. The science of fluids tells us that this pressure is not a hammer striking from above, but a uniform force acting equally in all directions, pressing against every millimeter of surface area with the exact same intensity. It is a hug from the universe itself, a squeeze that is perfect and complete, leaving no space untouched. Think of the concept of a weighted blanket, a tool used by humans to induce sleep and reduce anxiety. The heavy fabric pressing down on the muscles to signal the nervous system that you are safe and held. The deep ocean is the original weighted blanket, a layer of water miles thick that wraps around the world and everything in it, swaddling the deep in a grip so tight that chaos is impossible. Under this immense weight, the water molecules themselves are packed closer together, creating a density that feels solid and unyielding. This is the science of stability, for in this high-pressure environment, the wild fluctuations of the surface are unknown. There are no sudden storms here, no crashing waves, no whipping winds, only the steady, constant, heavy presence of the water. It is a world of slow motion, where the thickness of the environment demands that every movement be deliberate and calm. Consider the water in your own body, the fluids that run through your veins and fill your cells. Remember that water is virtually incompressible. This means that if you were a creature of the deep, this pressure would not hurt you, because the water inside you would push back with equal force against the water outside, making you one with the ocean. You would feel weightless yet grounded, floating yet held firm. This is why the delicate jellyfish and the soft-bodied sea cucumbers can thrive here without being crushed. They have no air pockets to collapse. They have surrendered to the pressure, allowing the ocean to fill them and support them from the innermost cells to the outermost skin. They are transparent ghosts drifting in a high-pressure heaven, proving that if you do not resist the weight of the world, it cannot hurt you. The pressure acts as a dampener, a silencer that suppresses vibration and noise. Sound travels fast in water, yes, but the sheer density of the environment at this depth creates a psychological feeling of muffled silence, a library quiet that has lasted for eons. The heaviness of the water absorbs the frantic energy of the atomic world, slowing things down, preserving them. This is why shipwrecks at these depths are found in such pristine condition. The pressure holds them together, the lack of oxygen preserves the wood, and the stillness keeps them from breaking apart. It is a form of stasis, a long, deep sleep where time loses its meaning.
As you listen to this, imagine that the air in your room is turning into this heavy, comforting water, settling over you like a thick, soft quilt. feel the weight of it on your shoulders, your chest, your legs, pressing you gently into the mattress. This is the sensation of being grounded. The science of pressure is also the science of connection, for the water presses against you, bridging the gap between your body and the world, removing the feeling of separation. In the deep, there is no empty space. Everything is touching everything else, a continuous medium of connection. We are now 3,000 meters down, and the pressure is over 4,000 pounds per square inch, a number that sounds terrifying to the logical mind, but feels incredibly soothing to the weary soul. It is the feeling of being buried deep within the earth, protected from the sun and the changing seasons. The water here is cold, near freezing, which increases its density even further, making it heavy and thick like syrup. This cold, heavy water flows slowly across the ocean floor, a global current that takes 1,000 years to complete a single circuit. Think of that time scale, 1,000 years to move from the poles to the equator and back, a slow, majestic rhythm that ignores the hurry of human life. You are part of that rhythm now. The pressure is holding you together, keeping your pieces from drifting apart. It is a force of integration. In the early days of science, people thought life could not exist here. They believed the weight would reduce any living thing to dust, but they were wrong because they forgot the power of adaptation. Life adapts to the pressure by becoming softer, more fluid, less rigid, and so must we. To sleep deeply, we must let go of our rigidity, our tension, our hard edges, and become soft and fluid like the creatures of the abyss. We must let the gravity and the imaginary pressure of the sleep story press the tension out of our muscles. Imagine the pressure squeezing the stress out of your fingertips, out of your toes, pushing it away until only relaxation remains. The deeper we go, the heavier the blanket becomes and the safer we feel. It is a fortress of solitude, built not of stone walls, but of water molecules locked in a tight embrace. There is no way for the noise of the daylight world to penetrate this shield. You are miles beneath the surface, protected by a barrier that is millions of tons heavy. It is the ultimate security. The hydrostatic pressure creates a sensation of being distinct from the void, of being a solid object in a liquid world. Even the chemistry of the ocean changes here. Gases dissolve differently, solids react differently. Everything is governed by the rule of the weight. It is a predictable, reliable world. The sun may rise and set, the moon may wax and wane, storms may rage and pass, but down here, the pressure is constant. It never changes, never falters, never leaves. It is a faithful companion in the dark. As we prepare to move even deeper, let yourself fall in love with this heaviness. Do not fight the gravity that pulls your eyelids down. Do not fight the weight that keeps your body in bed. Accept the pressure as a gift, a signal that you no longer need to hold yourself up. The ocean is holding you. The universe is holding you. The weight of the world is not a burden to carry, but a pillow to rest your head upon. You are sinking through the layers of compression, feeling smaller, denser, and more peaceful. The immense column of water above you is a guardian, standing watch while you sleep, ensuring that nothing disturbs your rest. It is a silence so heavy it has a physical presence, a silence you can feel on your skin. Allow this scientific reality of pressure to translate into a spiritual reality of peace. You are under the blanket. You are in the safe zone. You are held tight by the deep.
As we hang suspended in the crushing stillness of the midwater, the darkness around us is not empty, but alive with a phenomenon that is as old as the ocean itself, a gentle and ceaseless event known to science as marine snow. Turn on the external lights of our imaginary vessel and look out into the black void, and you will see it immediately. Millions of tiny white flakes drifting slowly downward, looking exactly like a heavy snowfall on a quiet winter night in New England. It is a mesmerizing sight, a storm of white particles against a background of infinite black. But this snow does not melt, and it does not freeze. It is the debris of life, the organic remnants of the sunlit world far above, making their long, lonely journey to the bottom of the sea. This is the great biological pump of our planet, a silent rhythm that cleans the atmosphere and feeds the deep, a cycle that has been turning without pause for billions of years. Imagine the journey of a single flake of this snow. Perhaps it began as a microscopic plankton basking in the warm sunshine of the surface, absorbing carbon dioxide and energy, living its brief life in the blue photic zone. When that life ended, it began to fall, joining with dust from the Sahara Desert, soot from distant volcanoes, and the discarded casings of tiny crustaceans, clumping together with a sticky, sugary mucus to form a flake. The science of this descent is slow and deliberate, for these particles are not heavy like stones. They're feather-light, caught in the microcurrents of the water, parachuting down at a speed of only a few meters a day. It might take weeks or even months for a single flake to travel from the surface to the sea floor, a slow-motion commute that defies the hurry of our human perception. As you watch the snow fall past the window, let your eyes lose focus, blurring the individual specks into a continuous curtain of white noise, a visual static that calms the brain. This is the transfer of energy from the world of light to the world of shadow, a manna from heaven that sustains the creatures of the abyss who will never see the sun. It is a peaceful concept, the idea that nothing in the ocean is ever wasted, that the end of one life becomes the beginning of another, a perfect circle of recycling and renewal. The sheer volume of this snow is staggering, a constant rain of carbon that sequesters heat-trapping gases from our atmosphere and locks them away in the deep, helping to regulate the climate of the entire Earth while we sleep. You are watching the planet breathe, a slow exhalation of material sinking into the dark. The silence of this snowfall is profound, deeper even than the silence of a snowy forest, for here there is no wind to rustle the branches, no crunch of boots on ice, only the silent, fluid drift of particles through water. It creates a sensation of being inside a vast snow globe that has been shaken once and then left to settle for eternity. As the marine snow passes through the different zones of the ocean, it feeds a host of strange and wonderful scavengers, ghostly crustaceans and gelatinous zooplankton that hang motionless in the water, waiting to catch a snowflake on their delicate fans. They are the filter feeders, the custodians of the drift, playing their part in the great chain of being. But most of the snow continues past them, falling deeper and deeper, becoming denser and more compact as the pressure squeezes it tight. The visual effect is hypnotic, a star field in reverse, where the stars are not fixed in the sky, but are raining down around you. It reminds us of the passage of time, how moments accumulate into hours, and hours into years, just as these tiny flakes accumulate to form the sediment of the ocean floor. Scientists call this ooze, a thick, soft layer of mud that covers the abyssal plains, a history book written in the language of dust. Every layer of sediment tells the story of a different era, a record of ancient climates, meteorite impacts, and the bloom and bust of prehistoric life. As you float here, surrounded by the drift, you are witnessing the accumulation of history itself, a slow sedimentation of time that buries the past in a protective layer of calm. The marine snow is a blanket in the truest sense, covering the jagged edges of the underwater mountains and smoothing out the rough contours of the world below. It softens everything, making the deep ocean a place of gentle curves and buried secrets. The chemistry of the particles changes as they fall, bacteria riding on the flakes like passengers on a slow bus, breaking down the organic matter, glowing faintly as they work, adding a subtle sparkle to the snow. It is a living rain, a cascade of nutrients that connects the surface to the bottom, proving that the Earth is one single interconnected organism. The feeling of watching this is one of trance. The repetitive motion of the falling specks acts like a metronome for your mind, slowing your thoughts down to the speed of the sinking snow. You are not rushing anywhere. You are simply drifting, caught in the gravity of the deep, moving slowly towards a place of rest. The marine snow blocks out the void, filling the empty space with texture and movement, so you never feel alone. You feel surrounded by the quiet activity of the planet. It is a comfort to know that even in the deepest, darkest places, there is a constant supply of energy arriving, a gift from the sun delivered by gravity. The biological pump is a heartbeat, a slow, rhythmic pulse that pumps carbon down and nutrients up, a circulation system that keeps the ocean healthy. As you listen to the description of the white flakes against the black water, imagine that your worries are these flakes, detaching themselves from your mind and drifting slowly away, falling down into the abyss where they can no longer touch you. Watch them sink, getting smaller and smaller until they disappear into the dark. You are light, unburdened, floating above the snow, watching it fall away. The water supports you, the darkness embraces you, and the silent drift mesmerizingly lulls you into a state of deep relaxation. The consistency of the marine snow is predictable and steady. It has been falling since the oceans were born, and it will continue to fall long after we are gone, a permanent feature of the deep. This timelessness is soothing, a reminder that the world is vast and enduring, and that your problems are small and temporary. The snow creates a veil of mystery, hiding the monsters in the mountains, leaving only the immediate space around you, a cocoon of safety. Imagine reaching out a hand and letting the flakes settle on your palm. They are soft, intangible, dissolving at the touch, leaving only the memory of their passage. We are drifting down with them now, moving towards the sea floor, guided by the rain of history. The silent drift is the lullaby of the ocean, a visual song that sings of rest, of letting go, of sinking down. It is the ultimate surrender to gravity, a passive journey that requires no effort, only acceptance. The snowflakes are like the seconds ticking by, silent and soft, piling up to create the cushion of sleep. Let the image of the marine snow fill your mind, a white screen of static that blocks out the noise of the day. You are safe in the drift. You are part of the great cycle. You are falling gently, slowly, peacefully, like snow in the deep ocean, drifting towards a deep and dreamless sleep.
As we descend through the curtain of falling marine snow, the landscape below begins to reveal itself not as a flat and barren wasteland, but as a majestic and rugged terrain that rivals the grandest peaks of the American West. We are approaching the bottom of the world, where the true skin of the planet is exposed, and looming out of the darkness are the shadows of giants, the silent sentinels known as the mid-ocean ridge. It is a geological wonder that stretches for 40,000 miles, wrapping around the globe like the seam on a baseball, the longest continuous mountain range on Earth, yet it remains hidden under layers of water and crushing pressure. Imagine standing at the base of these underwater mountains. They are not made of granite and pine like the Rockies, but of black basalt, heavy and iron-rich, sculpted by fire and cooled by the eternal chill of the deep. These are mountains that have never known the wind or the rain. Their jagged peaks remain sharp and pristine, untouched by the erosion that wears down the land above.
The science of this place is the science of plate tectonics, the slow and powerful movement of the Earth's crust, a dance of continents that happens at the speed of fingernails growing. It is a rhythm so slow that it feels like stillness, a movement that takes eons to change the map, reminding us that time in the deep ocean is measured not in hours, but in eras. Here, in the center of the Atlantic and across the Pacific, the great tectonic plates are pulling apart, drifting away from each other in silence, creating a rift valley where the planet is ripping open to birth new ground. This is not a violent destruction, but a creative process, a slow oozing of molten rock from the mantle below that rises up to fill the gap, cooling instantly upon contact with the freezing water to form pillowy shapes of fresh stone. It is the Earth making more of itself, a constant renewal that happens while we sleep, a reassuring sign that the planet is alive and active beneath our feet. To understand how we came to know this invisible world, we must travel back in history to the 1950s, to a quiet, smoke-filled room at Columbia University in New York, where a woman named Marie Tharp sat before a large drafting table. At that time, women were not allowed on the research ships, superstition and tradition keeping them ashore, so Marie traveled the ocean through numbers and sound. She worked with the data brought back by captains and scientists, long rolls of paper marked with the depth soundings of sonar. The science of sonar is the science of echoes, sending a ping of sound down into the dark and waiting for it to bounce back, measuring the time it takes to return to calculate the distance. Marie took these millions of isolated data points, these tiny pings of sound, and began to draw, connecting the dots with ink and intuition to reveal the face of the abyss. Imagine the sound of her pen scratching against the paper in the quiet of the night, a rhythmic sound like the ticking of a clock as she sketched profiles of the seafloor. Everyone else believed the bottom of the ocean was a flat, featureless plain full of mud, but Marie saw something else. She saw canyons, peaks, and valleys. She discovered the Great Rift Valley running down the spine of the mid-ocean ridge, a crack in the world that proved the theory of continental drift, which was considered scientific heresy at the time. Her colleague, Bruce Heezen, initially dismissed her finding as girl talk, but the truth does not lie, and eventually the truth of her drawings was undeniable. Visualize her map unfolding, a work of art and science that stripped the water away and showed us the naked earth, a textured blue landscape of ridges and trenches that changed human knowledge forever. Because of her, we can now close our eyes and see these mountains clearly. We can imagine flying over them in our bath escape, gliding past cliffs of black rock that rise thousands of feet into the water column. The feeling of drifting over the mid-ocean ridge is one of profound awe, knowing that you are hovering over the seam of the world, the place where the floor is moving beneath you. The heat from the magma below warms the water slightly in the cracks, creating a thermal contrast to the surrounding freeze, a reminder of the fiery heart of our planet. The basalt rocks are twisted into strange, fluid shapes, frozen in time, looking like toothpaste squeezed from a tube and turned to stone. This geology is heavy and permanent. It grounds us, offering a sense of stability that is unshakable. The plates move apart with a force that is unstoppable, yet imperceptible, a lesson in the power of patience and slow progress. There is no hurry here. The mountains do not rush to grow, the floor does not rush to spread, everything happens in its own perfect time. As you float through this underwater range, the silence is magnified by the sheer scale of the rock formations, giant walls of stone that absorb the sound, creating a sanctuary of quiet. You are an explorer in a land that no sun has ever touched, a witness to the secret architecture of the earth. The sonar pulses that mapped this world are like the heartbeat of the ship. Ping, 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 a rhythmic lullaby that speaks of safety and guidance. Marie Tharp's maps turned the scary void into a familiar landscape, giving names to the nameless, transforming the deep into a place we could understand and visit in our dreams. The jagged skylines of these underwater ranges are softened by the blanket of marine snow we passed through earlier, dusting the black peaks with white, making them look like the Alps at midnight. It is a monochrome world of shadow and texture, where the primary sense is not sight, but the feeling of mass and gravity. The gravity here is comforting, pulling you down toward the solid crust, anchoring you to reality. The idea that the continents we live on, North America, Europe, Africa, are just passengers riding on these massive plates, pushed by the growth of these underwater mountains, is a humbling thought that puts our daily worries into perspective. We are small, and the Earth is great, and the machinery of the planet operates with a smooth, silent efficiency that requires nothing from us but to exist. As we drift over the Rift Valley, the birthplace of the ocean floor, we feel a sense of new beginnings, of fresh starts rising from the dark. The geology of the deep is a story of resilience, of rock that withstands the pressure, of a crust that heals itself when it breaks. It is the ultimate foundation. Let the image of Marie Tharp's hand-drawn map soothe your mind, the intricate lines of ink flowing like water, creating order out of chaos. You are safe navigating this invisible world because the map has been drawn, the path is known. The mountains beneath the waves are watching over you, steady and strong, their peaks reaching up toward the surface but never breaking it, content to remain in the peaceful embrace of the deep. The sonar ping fades into a gentle hum, the sound of the earth sleeping. You are gliding effortlessly over the ridges, feeling the magnetic pull of the earth, a heavy, drowsy sensation that drags your body deeper into relaxation. The tectonic plates may drift apart, but you are drifting into a unified state of rest, supported by the solid rock of the ocean floor. The history of this mapping is a history of bringing light to the darkness, of understanding that what lies beneath is not empty space, but a solid, enduring foundation. Rest your mind on the peaks of the mid-ocean ridge, let your thoughts settle in the valleys, and trust in the slow, silent science of the earth to hold you through the night.
We leave the rugged, twisted sculptures of the mid-ocean ridge behind us now, gliding silently away from the volcanic heat and the dramatic cliffs to enter a region of the world that is defined by its sheer, impossible emptiness. We are descending to the abyssal plains, the vast, flat expanses that cover more than 50% of the Earth's surface, yet remain the least explored territory on the planet. Imagine a landscape that stretches out forever in every direction, flatter than the flattest wheat fields of Kansas, smoother than a calm lake at dawn, a gray, infinite desert of the deep that sits waiting in eternal patience. We are now between 3,000 and 6,000 meters deep, a place where the concept of landscape is reduced to a single horizontal line. The science of this flatness is the science of time and gravity working together, smoothing out the rough edges of the original ocean crust under a thick blanket of sediment that has been falling for millions of years. This is the floor of the world. Imagine your vessel touching down gently, the landing skid sinking softly into the bottom, kicking up a slow-motion cloud of fine, gray dust that hangs in the water like smoke. This dust is the ooze, a scientific term for the thick layer of microscopic remains, clay and silt that coats the bottom, a sediment that can be thousands of feet thick, burying the ancient history of the Earth under a soft, protective cover. If you could step outside now, protected by a heavy suit, and walk on this floor, it would be like walking in deep, fresh snow, your boots sinking in with every step, making no sound, leaving footprints that might last for 1,000 years in this current-free environment. The feeling here is one of absolute isolation,
But it is not a lonely isolation, it is a peaceful one, a solitude so complete that it wipes the slate of the mind clean. There is no one here to expect anything from you, no phone signals, no deadlines, no noise, just the crushing weight of the water and the endless gray plain. The silence of the abyssal plain is the heaviest silence on earth, a lack of vibration that feels physical, pressing against your ears, hushing your thoughts. It is a library where the books are layers of mud and the reading room is the size of a continent. As you walk in your imagination across this vast expanse, you realize that you are the only vertical thing in a horizontal world, a solitary traveler in the land of the deep. The darkness is total. The sun has not touched this mud since the continents were in different places, yet in your mind's eye you can see the texture of the floor, smooth and featureless, rolling out into the void. Occasionally, you might see a sea cucumber, a slow-moving, sausage-shaped creature that vacuums the sediment, moving at a pace that makes a snail look fast, perfectly adapted to a life where energy is the most precious currency.
These creatures do not rush, for there is nowhere to go and nothing to chase. They simply exist, processing the mud, living in a state of suspended animation that we can only dream of. The isolation here is a luxury, a rare chance to be completely disconnected from the chaos of the surface. You are standing on the basement of the planet, the solid foundation upon which everything else rests. Feel the stability of that. The ground beneath you is not going anywhere. It is the end of the line, the final resting place for everything that falls. The sediment you are standing on is composed of the shells of diatoms and radiolarians, tiny architects of glass and silica that lived eons ago, and now their bodies form the soft carpet of the abyss. This creates a sensation of softness. The ocean floor is not hard rock, but a yielding cushion, a mattress of history that absorbs all impact. The temperature is a steady, near-freezing cold, but inside your imaginary suit, inside your warm bed, you feel a cozy contrast, a warmth that is amplified by the cold outside. The flatness of the plains is hypnotic. There are no landmarks to grab your attention, no trees, no buildings, just the endless, soothing repetition of the flat horizon. It forces the eye to relax. It forces the brain to stop processing new information and simply drift. This is the ultimate white space for the mind, a canvas of gray that invites you to paint your own dreams or simply let the screen go black. The pressure here is at its maximum, 6 tons per square inch, a force that holds the sediment down, packing it tight, creating a world of high density and low energy. It is a world of stasis. Nothing changes quickly here. If you were to leave a chair on this floor and come back in 500 years, it would look exactly the same, perhaps covered in a millimeter of fresh dust. This timelessness is the medicine for a racing mind. We live in a world of constant change, but the abyssal plains offer us a vision of permanence, a place where time stands still. As you continue your slow, weightless walk across the bottom, you feel a connection to the earth that is primal and deep. You are grounded in the most literal sense. The water above you is a heavy quilt, layer upon layer of blue and black, tucking you in against the floor. The isolation feels like a protective bubble, a do not disturb sign hung on the door of the universe. You are hidden, safe in the cellar of the sea. The science of the abyss teaches us that even in the most barren places there is purpose, for this sediment plays a crucial role in the chemistry of the ocean, recycling nutrients over vast geological timescales. But for tonight, the science matters less than the feeling of the ooze squishing softly beneath your feet, the feeling of the infinite space around you, the feeling of the profound quiet.
It is a quiet that heals. Imagine lying down on this soft gray sediment, letting your body sink into it, the mud molding to your shape like memory foam. You are lying on the bottom of the world, looking up into the dark water, watching the invisible marine snow continue its eternal fall. There is nowhere lower to go. You have reached the point of maximum rest. You can let go of the muscles in your back, your neck, your legs, because the floor of the world is there to catch you. It is a solid, unmoving support that spans the entire globe. The darkness wraps around you like a velvet blanket, and the silence fills your head, pushing out the noise of the traffic, the voices, the worries. You are alone in the best possible way, alone with the heartbeat of the planet, which beats so slowly it is almost a stillness. The abyssal plains are the bedroom of the earth, the place where the planet itself seems to sleep. Let yourself merge with this vast gray quiet. Let your breathing slow down to match the currents that barely move. You are a part of the deep now, anchored, heavy, and at peace. The walk is over. The journey across the flat earth has led you to this moment of stillness. You are safe on the floor of the world, held by gravity, covered by the ocean, and drifting into a deep, heavy, and historical sleep.
We are walking now through the absolute cold of the deep ocean floor, where the temperature has been a constant near-freezing chill for miles. But as we move forward through the darkness, a subtle change begins to occur in the water around us. You might feel it first as a gentle shift in the currents, a wavering distortion in the water like the heat haze rising from a highway on a summer day, signaling that we are approaching one of the most profound discoveries in the history of science. Looming ahead in the blackness are strange, towering structures of rock, chimneys that rise from the seafloor like the spires of a Gothic cathedral, belching clouds of dark, mineral-rich fluid into the ocean. These are the hydrothermal vents, the black smokers, the secret fireplaces of the deep that burn without flame in the eternal night. To understand the magnitude of what we are seeing, we must cast our minds back to the year 1977, to an expedition near the Galapagos Islands involving the submersible named Alvin. The geologists on board, including Jack Corliss and Robert Ballard, expected to find a barren volcanic desert of black basalt, but when they looked out of their small viewports, they gasped in disbelief because they had found a garden. In a world where everyone believed life could not exist without the energy of the sun, they found a thriving, bustling metropolis of creatures living in the dark, clustering around the warmth of the vents, like travelers gathering around a hearth in the middle of a snowy winter. The science of this place is a miracle of adaptation called chemosynthesis, a process that rewrote the biology textbooks and expanded our understanding of life itself. Instead of plants turning sunlight into sugar through photosynthesis, here in the deep, tiny bacteria take the toxic chemicals spewing from the earth, specifically hydrogen sulfide, and turn them into energy. It is an alien world right here on Earth, a closed loop of life that needs no sun, no moon, and no surface world to survive. Imagine drifting closer to one of these chimneys, feeling the radiant heat warming the water, a cozy sensation that seeps into your bones and relaxes your muscles. The water shooting out of the vents is superheated, reaching temperatures of over 400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead, yet the crushing pressure of the deep ocean prevents it from boiling, keeping it in a liquid state that shimmers and dances. It is a mesmerizing sight, the black smoke, which is actually dissolved minerals like iron and sulfur, billowing up in slow, rhythmic clouds that drift upward like incense smoke in a quiet temple. Surrounding these vents are the most peaceful giants of the deep, the Riftia pactyla, or giant tube worms. Visualize them clearly,
white tubes growing up to 8 feet tall, swaying gently in the warm currents like tall grass in a breeze. At the tip of each tube is a bright ruby-red plume, a delicate organ filled with blood that captures the chemicals from the water to feed the bacteria living inside them. These worms have no mouths, no stomachs, and no eyes. They simply exist in a state of permanent rest, anchored to the rock, bathed in the warm, mineral-rich soup of the vents. They are the monks of the deep, standing in silent meditation, living for hundreds of years in this stable, warm oasis. The red plumes retract quickly if disturbed, but otherwise they flow elegantly, painting a splash of vibrant color against the monochrome black of the abyss. Crawling slowly among the tubes are the ghost crabs and the vent shrimp, creatures that are blind but can sense the heat, moving with a slow, deliberate lethargy that matches the pace of the deep. There is no frantic hunting here, just a slow grazing, a peaceful coexistence in the only warm place for miles. The discovery of these vents proved that life is tenacious, that it can find a way to flourish even in the most extreme conditions, and this knowledge offers a deep sense of comfort. It tells us that warmth and life can be found even in the deepest darkness. As you float near the vent, imagine the sound of it, a low rumble from the earth.
A white noise of rushing water that sounds like a distant waterfall or a heavy rainstorm, a sound that blocks out all other thoughts. The heat radiating from the chimney creates a protective bubble, an oasis of fire where the freezing cold of the deep cannot reach. It is the ultimate shelter. You can imagine warming your hands by this underwater fire, feeling the energy of the earth itself, the primordial heat that has been burning since the planet was formed. This is the oldest ecosystem on Earth, a window into the ancient past when life first began, perhaps in a warm, safe cradle just like this one. The stability of these vents is soothing. They can remain active for decades or even centuries, providing a reliable home for the creatures that depend on them. The contrast between the cold, empty plains we just crossed and this vibrant, warm community highlights the beauty of finding a sanctuary. You are safe here, hovering in the warmth, watching the slow dance of the smoke and the worms. The science of the minerals precipitating out of the water creates chimney structures that are beautiful and complex, towers of fool's gold and anhydrite that sparkle even in the faint light of a submersible. It is a glittering city built by chemistry and time. As you watch the smoke rise, imagine it carrying away your stress, your tension, your racing thoughts, lifting them up and dispersing them into the infinite ocean above. The vent is a purifier, a cleanser, burning away the old to make room for the new. The ecosystem here is self-sufficient. It asks for nothing from the world above. It is content and complete in itself, just as you are content and complete in your bed right now. The heat relaxes the tension in your jaw, your shoulders, your back, spreading a feeling of heaviness and ease through your entire body. The giant clams that live here, growing to massive sizes, sit with their shells slightly open, filtering the water, living calm, sedentary lives. They are the embodiment of patience. The hydrothermal vents remind us that there is energy within us, a heat that comes from the core, sustaining us even when the outside world seems dark or cold. You are tapping into that inner warmth now. The oases of fire are not places of danger, but places of life, lighthouses of heat in a cold sea. As we prepare to leave this warm garden and continue our journey, take the feeling of the heat with you. Wrap it around yourself like a heated blanket. The science of the deep has shown us that the earth is alive, breathing,
and caring for its creatures in the most unexpected ways. The shimmering water creates a dreamlike atmosphere, blurring the edges of reality, making it easier to let go of the waking world. We drift away slowly, watching the red plumes of the tube worms fade into the distance, leaving only the memory of the warmth and the knowledge that deep down, in the heart of the ocean, the fire of life is always burning. The water cools slightly as we move away, but you remain warm, comforted by the story of the vents, ready to sink deeper into the peaceful oblivion of sleep, carried by the currents of history and science into a place of perfect rest. We have traveled through time and space, exploring the zones and the biology of the deep, but now we arrive at the absolute pinnacle of human exploration in the ocean, a moment in history that stands as the underwater equivalent of the moon landing. Let your mind travel back to the 23rd of January in the year 1960, to a rough and choppy day in the Pacific Ocean, some 200 miles southwest of the island of Guam. Here, bobbing awkwardly in the large swelling waves, lies a strange vessel named the Trieste, a bathyscaphe designed not for speed, but for the ultimate endurance. It does not look like a submarine. It looks like a giant underwater balloon, a 50-foot-long tank filled not with air, but with lighter-than-water gasoline to provide buoyancy. And hanging beneath this massive float is a small, heavy sphere made of Italian steel. Inside this cramped steel gondola are two men, the Swiss oceanographer Jacques Piccard and the American Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh, who are about to do what no human has ever done before. They are about to dive 7 miles down to the very bottom of the Challenger Deep, the deepest known point on the surface of our planet. Imagine the feeling of the waves tossing the ship about on the surface, the noise of the wind and the spray, the feeling of anticipation mixed with a calm resolve. As the valves are opened to release the air and let the heavy seawater into the ballast tanks, the Trieste begins to sink, slipping beneath the turbulent waves and leaving the noise of the world behind. The rocking motion stops immediately, replaced by a smooth, steady elevator ride into the abyss. The science of this vessel is brilliant in its simplicity, using the physics of density to control the dive, with the gasoline acting as a float and tons of iron pellets held by electromagnets acting as the weight. As they descend, the light fades rapidly, turning from the bright tropical sun to the familiar twilight blue, and then, very quickly, into the total blackness we have come to know so well. The journey is long. It will take them nearly 5 hours to reach the bottom. 5 hours of sitting in a space no larger than a refrigerator, curled up, watching the depth gauge tick deeper and deeper. The temperature inside the sphere begins to drop as the cold of the deep ocean penetrates the steel walls, chilling the air, making the men huddle into their thick wool clothes, a sensation that makes your own warm bed feel even more luxurious by comparison. They pass the depths of the Titanic. They pass the depths of the hydrothermal vents. They pass into a zone where the pressure is incomprehensible, reaching 8 tons per square inch. It is a weight that would crush a standard submarine like a soda can, but the sphere of the Trieste is thick and round, the strongest shape in nature, dispersing the pressure evenly around them. There's a moment of suspense at 31,000 feet, a loud, sharp crack that echoes through the sphere like a pistol shot, shaking the floorboards. It is the outer plexiglass window pane fracturing under the immense stress, a terrifying sound in the silence, but the inner window holds firm, the structure is sound, and the men, after a moment of breath-holding fear, decide to continue. This crack is a reminder of the forces at play, but also a testament to the safety of their cocoon. They are protected by engineering and physics, safe inside the shell. They continue down, falling slowly through the water column, eating chocolate bars to keep their energy up, speaking in low voices that are swallowed by the damp air. Finally, The depth gauge reads 35,000 feet, then 35,800 feet. They turn on the external lights, cutting a beam through the eternal night, and they see it, the bottom of the world. The Trieste touches down gently on the floor of the Mariana Trench.
Kicking up a cloud of diatomaceous ooze, a refined ivory-colored dust that billows up like a silent explosion of slow-motion smoke. They have landed. They are 7 miles beneath the surface. Pause and feel the weight of that distance, 7 miles of water stacked on top of them. The silence here is unlike anything ever experienced by a human being before or since. It is a silence that is absolute, heavy, and pure. There is no vibration, no movement, no sound of life, only the beating of their own hearts and the soft hum of the rebreathing equipment. They peer out of the small window and see a flatfish, a soul, drifting over the sediment, proving once and for all that life exists even at the deepest point of the ocean. The feeling of isolation is profound. They are further away from humanity than astronauts in orbit, yet they feel a deep sense of peace. The mission is accomplished. The bottom of the ocean is not a scary place, but a quiet, still desert of white silt that has remained undisturbed for millions of years. Picard and Walsh shake hands in the small cabin, a gesture of brotherhood in the deep. They stay there for 20 minutes, just 20 minutes to soak in the history, to witness the stillness, to be the only 2 eyes looking at the bottom of the earth. The pressure outside is pushing against the window with the force of a locomotive, but the window pushes back, a standoff between nature and humanity that results in a perfect equilibrium. As you listen to this, imagine yourself in that sphere with them, feeling the cold steel, seeing the white dust settle outside, knowing that you are in the safest place you could possibly be, shielded from the entire world by a barrier of water that is miles thick. The return journey is just as slow, a silent ascent back to the light, but the memory of that bottom remains. The voyage of the Trieste was a journey into the ultimate quiet, a quest to find the end of the ocean, and what they found was peace. The anxiety of the surface, the politics, the noise, none of it matters down here. There is only the physics of the water and the biology of the slow-moving life. The sphere is a womb, returning them to the surface. But for now, we linger on that moment of contact, the gentle bump of the landing, the cloud of dust, and the realization that the world is deep, and we are just visitors. The immense depth creates a blanket of security, a feeling that nothing can reach you, nothing can disturb you. You are 7 miles down, wrapped in the arms of the ocean, protected by the strongest steel, breathing slowly, watching the silt drift like snow. The history of this dive is a bedtime story for the ages, a tale of 2 men who went to the darkest place and found it to be calm. Let the image of the Trieste sitting silently on the bottom of the trench soothe your mind. The engines are off, the lights are dim, the ocean is still. You are drifting in the capsule of your room, weightless and relaxed, feeling the heavy, comforting pressure of sleep closing in around you. The voyage is over, the destination is reached, and all that is left is to rest in the quiet triumph of the deep.
We drift away from the sediment of the ocean floor, rising slightly into the vast, open expanse of the deep water, a place where the darkness is thick and the currents are gentle, entering the realm of the giants. For centuries, this was the part of the map marked with illustrations of terrifying beasts, where sailors whispered fearful tales of the Kraken, a monster with many arms that could pull a ship down to the depths, and of sea serpents that spanned the length of the horizon. But as we float here in the safety of our imagination and the clarity of modern science, we realize that the monsters of myth are actually the marvels of reality. shy and slow-moving creatures that ask for nothing but silence and darkness. Let us first turn our gaze to the source of the Kraken legend, the giant squid, known to science as Architeuthis dux. In the old stories, it was a beast of fury, but in the calm reality of the deep ocean, it is a creature of grace and suspension. Imagine this giant drifting past you, a body of soft, reddish tissue that can grow to the size of a school bus, yet it moves with the elegance of a dancer. It has the largest eyes in the animal kingdom, the size of dinner plates, evolved not to hunt humans, but to catch the faintest glimmer of bioluminescence in the pitch black. The science of its buoyancy is a lesson in relaxation, for its body is filled with ammonium chloride, a solution lighter than seawater, allowing it to hang motionless in the water column without expending a single calorie of energy. It does not need to swim frantically. It simply waits, drifting on the currents like a ghost, its long tentacles trailing behind it like ribbons in a gentle breeze. There is something profoundly soothing about the idea of such a massive creature living its life in slow motion, floating in the eternal night, far removed from the chaos of the surface world. It is not a monster, it is a lonely wanderer of the abyss, wrapped in the velvet cloak of the deep. As we leave the squid to its silent vigil, we encounter another legend, a creature that was supposed to be dead for 65 million years, the coelacanth. History tells us of the shock in 1938 when Marjorie Courtney Latimer, a museum curator in South Africa, discovered this prehistoric fish on a trawler, a blue, four-legged anomaly that had survived the extinction of the dinosaurs. Visualize this ancient survivor, a fish that can grow to 6 feet long, with heavy, armor-like scales that are a deep midnight blue, speckled with white spots that mimic the starry sky. The coelacanth is the ultimate symbol of patience, hiding in the deep underwater caves of the Comoros Islands in Indonesia, spending its days resting in the shadows. The science of its movement is hypnotic. It uses its lobed fins to paddle through the water in a rhythmic, alternating gait that looks like walking, a slow, deliberate march through time. They are known to be incredibly lethargic, often drifting upside down or standing on their heads in the water, completely relaxed, letting the ocean cradle them. Their metabolism is so slow that they are living in a different time scale, a slow-motion existence where a single heartbeat stretches out and the years blend together into a long, peaceful slumber. To see a coelacanth is to look back in time, to see a living fossil that has refused to change, finding a perfect niche in the deep where it is safe and undisturbed. The myths of sea serpents also find their reality here, in the form of the oarfish, the king of herrings, a ribbon-like creature that can grow up to 36 feet long. Instead of a fearsome dragon, the oarfish is a delicate silver stream of life, shimmering with a metallic glow, topped with a crest of red spines that looks like a crown. It swims vertically, keeping its body straight as a pillar, driven by the undulation of a dorsal fin that ripples like a silk curtain. Imagine the peace of this creature, a long silver ribbon hanging in the dark, reflecting the faint light, harmless and beautiful.
These giants are not the enemies of mankind. They are the shy recluses of the planet, growing large because the cold water slows their life cycles down, allowing them to live for centuries. Consider the Greenland shark, a creature of the deep Arctic and North Atlantic, which has been discovered to live for over 400 years. This shark is the oldest vertebrate on Earth, a sleepy giant that moves so slowly its top speed is less than 2 miles per hour. Its heart beats only once every few seconds, a slow, heavy thud that echoes the timelessness of the deep ocean. Imagine a creature that was swimming in the dark when the Pilgrims landed in America, when the Declaration of Independence was signed, and is still swimming there now, calm and unchanged.
The science of extreme longevity is the science of cold and slow living. The cold water preserves them, the slow metabolism sustains them, and the darkness protects them. There is a comfort in knowing that these ancient beings are down there, guarding the history of the ocean, living lives of absolute tranquility. They do not rush, they do not worry, they simply exist. The monsters of our nightmares are actually the dreamers of the deep. As you visualize these giants, feel your own heart rate slowing down to match theirs. Feel your own breathing becoming deep and rhythmic, like the gills of the coelacanth. The scary stories of the past were just misunderstandings of a world we could not see. But now that we can see it, we find only beauty and peace. The water around them is heavy and still, supporting their massive bodies so they feel weightless, just as your bed supports you now. The giant squid's large eye closes slowly. The coelacanth drifts into its cave. The oarfish hangs suspended in the silver silence. They are all sleeping, or close to it, resting in the heavy, pressurized embrace of the water. The ocean is a vast dormitory for these giants, a place where they can grow old and large without disturbance. The shadows are their friends, hiding them from predators, keeping them safe in the obscurity. We blend the history of the myth with the science of the reality to create a feeling of awe, realizing that the world is full of magic that is real, tangible, and calm. You are walking among giants, but they are gentle giants, indifferent to your presence, intent only on their slow drift through eternity. The water feels thicker here, rich with the presence of these ancient lives, a soup of history that wraps around you. Let the image of the blue scales of the coelacanth soothe your mind, the deep blue color signaling your brain that it is time to rest. Let the slow, undulating movement of the oarfish hypnotize you, back and forth, a pendulum of sleep. The myths have been dispelled, the fear has vanished, and what remains is a deep, abiding respect for the quiet power of the ocean. These creatures have survived ice ages, meteor impacts, and the shifting of continents by simply staying deep and staying quiet. There is a lesson there for us tonight. To survive the stress of our world, we must find our own deep ocean, our own quiet cave, and rest. We must slow down our internal clock, ignore the rush of the surface, and drift like the giant squid, weightless and free. The giants of the shadow are watching over the deep, silent guardians of the peace that can only be found in the abyss. As we prepare to leave their domain, we thank them for their presence, for the mystery they add to our world, and for the example of calmness they set. The water is dark, the giants are still, and you are safe, floating in the historical and scientific reality of a world that sleeps forever. The shadows are not scary, they are soft, they are cool, and they are filled with the slow, rhythmic breathing of the ocean's oldest children. We have reached the end of our long and winding descent, traveling from the sunlit waves of the surface down through the layers of history and science to arrive at this final destination, the very heart of the ocean, where the silence is absolute and the calm is eternal. You have journeyed with the HMS Challenger across the endless horizon. You have peered out the window of the bathysphere with William Beebe. You have witnessed the living lights of the midnight zone and felt the heat of the hydrothermal vents. And now you are resting at the bottom of the world, 7 miles down, wrapped in a blanket of water that is as old as the earth itself. It is time to let the magnitude of this journey settle over you like a heavy, warm quilt, realizing that you are now in the safest place in the universe, a place where the chaos of the surface cannot reach you, where the noise of the day is filtered out by miles of dense, protective liquid. The science of this deep place is the science of stasis, a state of perfect balance where the pressure of the water holds everything in place, preventing movement, preventing worry, preventing change. Feel that pressure now, not as a weight that crushes, but as a hug that grounds you, a sensation of being held so tightly that you do not need to use a single muscle to hold yourself up. You are floating in the void, suspended in the womb of the planet, surrounded by the heavy velvet darkness that is not empty but full of peace. Think back to the marine snow we watched falling, those millions of tiny white flakes drifting slowly down for thousands of years, and imagine that your thoughts are now like that snow, detaching from your mind and sinking slowly, drifting away into the abyss, leaving your mind clear and dark and quiet. The ocean is a master of patience. It does not rush the tides, it does not hurry the currents, and down here in the deep, time has stopped completely. There are no clocks on the abyssal plain, there are no schedules in the trench, there is only the eternal now, a moment of rest that stretches out forever. The giant squid is sleeping in the shadows, its long tentacles hanging limp in the water. The coelacanth is drifting in its cave, its breathing slow and rhythmic, and the tube worms are swaying gently in the warm currents of the vents. Everything in this vast underwater world is at rest, and now you are joining them. The history we have explored tonight is a history of humans seeking understanding, but the ultimate understanding of the ocean is that it is a place of rest. The excitement of the exploration is over, the maps have been drawn, the discoveries have been made, and what is left is the feeling of satisfaction, the feeling of a story well told and a journey completed. You can let go of the need to know what happens next, for in the deep ocean, nothing happens next. There is only the peaceful continuation of the present. The water around you is cool and still, a refreshing balm for a tired mind, washing away the heat and the friction of the day. You are the Trieste sitting on the bottom of the Challenger deep. The engines are powered down, the lights are turned off, and you are simply existing in the quiet dark. The sediment beneath you is soft and accepting, molding to the shape of your body, supporting your back, your neck, your legs, just as your bed supports you now. The boundary between your body and the bed, between the ship and the sea, begins to dissolve, and you become part of the ocean, a drop of water in an infinite sea of calm. The salt in your blood is the same as the salt in the ocean, a chemical connection that binds you to this deep, ancient peace. Listen to the silence. It is not a silence of emptiness, but a silence of fullness, a heavy, thick silence that fills your ears and quiets your internal monologue. The surface world, with its sun and its wind and its noise, is miles and miles away, a distant memory that has no power over you here. You are protected by the Twilight Zone, the Midnight Zone, the Abyssal Zone, layers of security that stand between you and the waking world. The crushing dark is your friend, a curtain that has been drawn to block out the light so you can sleep. The feeling of safety here is primal. It goes back to the very beginning of life, to the time when we all floated in the warm, safe waters of creation. You are returning to that source, returning to the heavy, liquid comfort of the deep. Let your breathing mimic the slow pulse of the ocean, the rise and fall of the chest like the slow, deep swells of the Pacific, inhaling the peace, exhaling the tension. The oxygen in your lungs is a gift from the plankton above. The heat in your body is a gift from the earth below. And you are suspended between them in a state of perfect equilibrium. The eternal calm is not just a phrase, it is a physical reality of the deep ocean, where storms never blow and the water never churns. It is a sanctuary of stillness. Imagine the heavy steel walls of the bathysphere fading away, leaving you floating free, weightless and unencumbered, drifting on a slow, invisible current that carries you deeper into sleep. The darkness is a soft, cool hand on your forehead, soothing away the furrow of the brow, relaxing the eyes. The giants of the deep are watching over you, the silent guardians of your rest. The history of the ocean is a lullaby that has been sung for billions of years, a song of water and rock and time. You are part of that song now. The heaviness of your limbs is the heaviness of the water, pulling you down, down, down into the mattress, down into the sediment, down into the core of the earth. There is no resistance, no fight, only the gentle, inexorable pull of gravity taking you to the place where sleep lives. The ocean floor is the basement of the world, the foundation that holds everything up, and you are resting on that solid ground. The mysteries have been solved, the monsters have been befriended, the darkness has been illuminated, and now there is nothing left to do but sleep. Sleep like the ocean sleeps, deep and dark and heavy. Sleep like the rocks sleep, still and silent and strong. The journey is over. The vessel is docked. The crew is resting. You are safe. You are deep. You are calm. The water is closing over you, not to drown you, but to tuck you in, a liquid blanket that covers you from head to toe in warmth and safety. The deep ocean is your home for tonight, a vast, silent bedroom where the lights are always out and the world is always quiet. Drift away now. Drift on the silent currents of the history we have shared. Drift towards the dreamless sleep of the abyss. The pressure is a comfort. The darkness is a blessing. The silence is a song. Good night, explorer of the deep. Good night, traveler of the blue. Good night to the surface. Good night to the sun. Good night to the stars. You are alone in the best way possible, alone with the peace of the ages. Sink deeper. Sink slower. Let the eternal calm wash over you. The ocean is holding you. The deep is keeping you. Sleep now. Sleep. Sleep.